Hello and welcome to the Foster Dad Directive podcast. My name is Charles. Today we're going to be going over LGBTQIA plus resources for essentially parents mostly, but also to give it out to any youth that may, you know, kind of stumble upon this podcast. I doubt that's probably going to happen. So it's more for you or more for the parental side. A lot of resources that you can find that I wasn't aware of when I did actually foster children who were in this category. I don't know. I guess I really don't know how to word that. So I apologize. I'm kind of ignorant on that. But we had one that was trans and one that was, I don't remember quite. I never really understood where she was because it changed quite a bit just because she was trying to figure everything out. So I never truly knew what her define like specific how she specifically wanted to be referred to. We never got quite that far. She ended up leaving before we got to the point of adoption just because of a whole lot of other issues that weren't related to being LGBTQ. So, as always, please do your own research on topics such as this, especially when it comes to foster care and the different adoption. You just want to make sure you're following state guidelines and following the rules that are put in place for you to protect the youth yourself and make sure that you're giving them the proper respect that they deserve. So I'm going to go through these resources if you're actually watching the video just because there are so many of them. Did the research, read through them. And it's going to seem like I didn't because my brain is not the greatest. Drinking in my 20s kind of limited the number of functioning brain cells sometimes. So I'm going to go through them. There's a lot of different resources that I was surprised to even see. I kind of wish I would have had these when I was fostering LGBTQ youth. We currently don't have any just because I don't think the girls would quite understand that term with how young they are and with their kind of educational delays. We've been teaching them tolerance obviously, but I don't think they quite would understand that to the level that they would need to make their proper judgment. So these are different resources that you can find. You can give them a quick Google. A lot of these were in the top category or like the first few pages of Google. These are all ones that I've heard about. I know the Time Suck podcast has donated to a few of these. I believe they donated to the Trevor Project and another one. I apologize, that podcast I've been listening for years, so they've donated to a lot of different organizations and done a lot of good. So they might have donated to a few of these and not a few of them as well. So one of the first ones we're going to go over is It Gets Better. This one has a lot of different supports for both youth and actually for the parental side as well. It gives you a lot of different resources, especially I do like that it has the terms on here and what you actually want to explore so that if you have a transgender youth, you can actually go to that section and find different resources on it, get different videos. I know videos and audio I prefer to reading most of the time just because at work I can listen to stuff on my headphones, so it's a lot easier for me to be able to listen to something such as a podcast or video or different audio content instead of trying to, read, then look at my work, then read, then look at my work. It just, the flip flopping back and forth is really hard. So I do absolutely love that this has so many different resources, not just for the youth themselves, but also for any parents out there who might not understand the different, terms, what your child is feeling, how to help them, different resources that it can take. I actually didn't know that the Red Cross was associated with doing work for the LGBTQ community, which is amazing to see. Honestly, I only know about them for blood draws and blood donations, so it's extremely nice to see that they are actually doing some support for other things that I wasn't aware of. And you can actually donate on here, become partner. You can learn about them and their different work opportunities. And there's just so many different resources on this site. I believe this is one that I heard get talked about or donated to just because of all the good work that they do. And then I also did provide two different states. I did New York. I like New York's layout for their resources because it's very simple, but I'm also older, so I can understand why Michigan's might be better. I'll show you that one next. I was a little saddened, but completely understand why mental health supports is one of the first resources. And this is on all of the resources I'm going to show you today is talking to different organizations such as the Trevor Project. We'll go over later. The 988, which is the self harm phone number, the prevention hotlines, and a bunch of different resources to actually help them because LGBTQ individuals are one of the higher, more likely to commit self harm and other tragedies such as that. So, providing these resources, and I really wanted to provide this one as well because I did have a friend who was transgender, who unfortunately a long time ago did take their own life. So, I wasn't understanding in like what they were going through. And in my own defense, I really did not know. We didn't talk very often. When he was younger, he rode my friend's bus, so anytime I go out there, we'd really butt heads, but kind of connected as we got older and talked every once in a while. I just didn't quite understand the full scope of what he was going through, so I unfortunately could not help in the right way. I wish I would have known about some of this stuff because I believe it definitely would have helped, especially a lot of the resources such as getting out of certain situations. And they do, from all of them I looked at, there were multiple resources for trying to help avoid homelessness, which I think was a lot of what kept him in his situation and did not help his mental health at all. So there are just so many different resources, and especially for New York, I include this one as well because there is some foster care resources on here. Granted, as I state in the beginning, do your own research for your own state because that's probably not going to fully uh, come over to your state. It probably won't be completely accurate, so you're going to want to make sure you do your own research on that. And it provides so many different resources from a state level, which honestly I guess I've never really done any newer research into this and was also surprised to see that, states have their own website. New York has these resources, which give you a whole bunch of other youth based resources on the side. So if you're in New York, this is a great place to go, not even just for LGBTQ resources. It gives you a lot of different options for other things such as runaway and homeless youth, missing youth, human trafficking, which will eventually I want to go over because of the children that I had that were at risk of that just because of their very risky behaviors because of all the trauma they had been through. And then Michigan's looks a lot nicer than New York's, but I like the layout of New York's a lot better. I've never really been a fan of Michigan's website just because it seems like things are tucked away in weird spots. Because this one's under commissions, so it's the LGBTQ plus commission of Michigan, which I don't know if I'd automatically think to go there. And this one didn't come up when I Googled LGBTQ resources, which I am in Michigan, so you would think it would have, but it did not. It actually brought up a page I believe we'll be going through later that gives a bunch of other resources. That was on the other side of what I would have liked for a document, but I'll go over that as well. And all of these websites that I'm showing do have places where you can subscribe for updates and get news and different newsletters with information on them. It There are so many different resources on here. This one I don't think is as in depth right off the bat as New York's, which I don't like as much because once you start going up here, you start going into other areas. So it's pretty limited on this until you start going through and trying to find other areas. So I do like that's one of the reasons I like New York's website's layout a lot better. But it does have news articles on what's happening in the state currently. So it'll give you a bunch of other resources. I'm almost 100% certain that I've heard of the Trevor Project, talked about repeatedly on numerous different podcasts, and then especially with Time Suck. So, and this one is has so many different resources. Where was that part that there was? I might have accidentally clicked off the page, but there was something that I really liked about this website. Sorry, I ended up going through everything and kind of clicked off the pages that I wanted, just searching through. But this one, as you can see on here, gives you the crisis hotline again, gives you different stats, especially with mental health, which is important, the different state reports, and different. This one's the risk factors, such as that higher rate of self harm. And it gives you other resources, staff that are here, which I really like to see, that you can actually see who's associated with this and kind of put a face to the work that's being done instead of just seeing it as a giant organization. It feels a lot more personal, but this one also provides a lot more different web pages that you can go to and look at the different articles, different information, what's happening in LGBTQ right now in the movement, and then again donating resources. So it thankfully there are these resources. I definitely know in the 90s, even if we would have been as ahead as we are now, the information wouldn't have been as accessible as it is now. I think that's one of the greatest parts, especially with being a foster parent and not knowing this information. Granted, I didn't know in the first year. I didn't really think about it. We were so kind of in such chaos because we had the LGBTQ kid that we were trying to adopt, along with the 18-year-old independent living kid who was constantly running away. The LGBTQ kid we had, and we're trying to get into therapy, different resources, tried to get her to go into different groups and kind of get support to feel comfortable with the feelings they were having. But unfortunately, none of it worked out. I was so overwhelmed with work, a kid running away, and not that we put the her on like the back burner. We tried to. I pushed like, you want to go to this meeting, this group? I'll go with you. And then all I got was, no, that's awkward. That's weird. Why would I go to that group? It's like, because there's other people there who can connect with you and understand what you're going through. I mean, I can try to connect with somebody on a personal level and understand what they're going through, but I'm never going to be able to understand exactly what somebody who is LGBTQ goes through because I've never experienced it. And I mean, I would joke around it when I worked at the prison, and they inmates are very homophobic, but I'll never know the true harm that being outcast like that does. I know that my words aren't the greatest on trying to word things respectfully, so please understand that it's coming from a place of trying. So, and a lot of these resources also do have places where you can either text a counselor, you can get connected with groups of people. I know there was groups that have individuals who are vetted, and there's counselors that are also vetted that talk to them, and you can, I know there's numbers where you can text, phone hotlines. So if you're looking for resources and need, especially if you're a youth who's part of the LGBTQ community, reach out to somebody. You don't have to feel alone. I know that's coming from me, it's not very helpful, but reach out because there's somebody else going through the same stuff that you are. That's kind of what I've always tried to tell the kids who have been in our care, that you know, sorry, that's the dogs. But there's always somebody else going through what you're going through, so there's definitely resources out there to help, and thankfully they're so accessible now, especially with smartphones and other items. And then the Humans Right campaign, which also had a lot of different resources. This one has a bunch of different websites, even. The Trevor Project's on it, Trans Life, Chat Space. This is one I was thinking of, where you can chat with other teens and vetted and trained staff. National Runaway Safe Line, which is going to help you with resources for if you run away and of if you're homeless, because I know the statistics are high for runaways and homeless youth, because if their family doesn't understand or doesn't accept them, you never really want to be somewhere where somebody's going to hate you for who you are. So there's resources here, the LGBT National Help Center, PF or P flag. I don't know. I tried to spell that out. But this one I do love. It has so many different resources on it and has so many different websites, which it encompasses, the Trevor Project and a whole bunch of different ones. So it gives you so many different resources if you are the youth in here, or if you're a foster parent and want to print off the different resources to give to a child so that they have them just in case. If I would have thought about it and the children in my care had it available for them, so that if they didn't end up staying with us, at least they would have had it in the future and would have had resources, because I don't know what resources they had after they left our house and our care, and it's nearly impossible to get in touch with them, so I don't know how I could even provide them right now, even if I wanted to. And this one should be one of the last resources. This was the Michigan one that came up when I did Google resources. It gives a bunch of different, like 4 pages of different resources, addresses, phone numbers on resources for LGBTQ kids. And I believe this was under a foster care adoption website. So it does, I mean, it's going to help no matter what. Again, the Trevor Project, that's why I did choose that as one of the websites, just because it is so well known. And then, yep, there's resources for youth here, support for youth and family. So if you have a child who is LGBTQ, some different resources on that. There's always therapy too, family therapy. We tried doing family therapy with the first kid we had, and it just didn't really work. Unfortunately, in her case, there were things that she wasn't willing to work on and kind of would talk about, but really didn't want to work on. And it wasn't even anything in terms of LGBTQ. She was very confident and secure on the outside viewpoint and was willing to talk about stuff like that. There were other issues that she wasn't really willing to go into and put the effort into work on. So as always, these are so many different resources. You'll honestly have to check. I didn't go through every link, so I don't know if any are obsolete or the websites are gone or the links are damaged or anything. But unfortunately, that's a shorter episode. I just didn't want to bog down the podcast with going through every little section of the websites. But go to those different websites, bookmark them. If you're starting fostering, in case you do get LGBTQ youth, I'm gonna try to print or get the different resources and post them on the Facebook and Instagram pages, just so they are out there, because it is very important, like I said, to have as a parent, as a foster parent. It was hard to know what resources to look into and which ones to, or really where to look, because honestly, like most people who aren't part of the LGBTQ community, I am kind of ignorant on some of the things that there are out there, because with all the kids we've had, there's so many different like ropes pulling us in different directions. And we did have a paper copy that we got for the first kid we had, so we had provided, like, that was the one that had the peer group on it, where she could have gone and talked to other individuals in the community and had built those connections. But I think she would have she would go on to Discord and troll people and then wonder why she didn't have any friends, but wouldn't talk to anybody in person, which I get. Meeting people in person really really sucks. I'm not a big fan of it, even for my veterans groups. And I'm sure that's far a veterans group is far easier to join than an LGBTQ one, because that the it's such a big step in trying to find out who you are that you may not even know. But going through these resources, even as a parent, you can help out your kid, help them understand. Like, you don't have to know all the answers, like I said I believe it was the last podcast, but taking that step forward and trying to get those resources and just being understanding. I mean, it probably wouldn't have made a huge difference in the two LGBTQ kids we did have, but I'm hoping that if we ever have another kid come into our care, that at least I'll be a little more prepared for it and can be more understanding and more open and helpful. And because I don't know everything, I don't even know everything about my own life. I'm sure not going to know everything about a kid who's scared and been traumatized and worried. I'm not going to be able to fix their entire life, but at least having these resources really does help and gives me a place to start, honestly, because going through some of those websites will give me so many more tools under my belt. And if you have any, websites, books are a big one I'm working on right now. I'm doing the Dad's Club. I'm in the middle of reading 4 different books right now. So if you have any book ideas, websites, pamphlets, anything, send them over to where I can find them so I can get them out to people, because you never know who they're going to help, especially if you have a resource that I didn't show on here. There might be somebody else who's never seen the resource, so you could be doing them a world of favor and absolutely change their life. So, as always, please like, subscribe, and rate the podcast. Send in any stories, feedback, ideas. I'd love to hear from somebody. I haven't really heard from anybody. I know it shows that I have a few listeners, but I haven't really gotten any feedback about it yet. But there's still so much I want to go through. I'm trying to get caught up, I promise. It's just, I mean, like today I got about 3 hours of sleep because I got home at 7, had an appointment for the kid at 10:30, came back, could not fall asleep, laid in bed reading one of the books, and then just kind of got back up because I have 2 more veterans meetings tonight that I have to help with for the financials and the children's picnic this fall. So unfortunately, some days my mind is absolutely fried and I don't always know what to do, but I've been working on making the episodes better, doing a lot more in depth research and targeting specific areas instead of trying to do like a broader topic. So I'm always looking for help on knowing what to look into, especially from the side of, LGBTQ individual or a foster kid, because I come from the foster parent side, so I don't exactly always know what the kids need. I'm building different resources and getting them different things, but I'm always not always going to know exactly what they need. So, as always, I want to thank you so much for listening and getting kind of lost on the dad jokes. I've been forgetting to put them in the episode. In this one, I didn't exactly have a episode layout and oh my gosh, notes that I could look at because I'm looking at the actual resources. So I'm kind of lost on what jokes I'm at, but I don't believe I've done this one yet. And that's why our library is so tall, because they have many stories, which actually made me laugh when I first read it. So, and just know that if you're looking for resources on this and you're questioning things about yourself, always just understand to be patient with yourself. I'm 35 and don't know everything about myself, and I think most of my life's pretty straightforward. So if you're questioning your LGBTQ status, just be patient with yourself. Don't hate yourself if it's been drilled into your head that those things are bad. Just take time and research and find out what you truly prefer and what your status is and things that can help you, because you only get one life on this planet. You might as well at least be happy from it. Don't let other people just bring everything down. So I thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.